are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. How are you doing?
You were saying that you were putting yourself in prosthetics and stuff to put on different appearances and talk about that?
Yeah, very well remembered. Yes, that's exactly what I've done. I've done all the prosthetics now, so we've done all the research and I've written the scripts, and it's now just rehearsals and tightening up the scripts and editing all the film footage that we got from those days, and getting it all into QLab, which we're using, which is a really cool bit of technology. I don't know if you know it, but yeah, it's all, there's a lot of graphic design and a lot of trickery on stage that hopefully will enhance the show and be quite a unusual theatre-going experience, but a comedy show as well. So it'll be it's going to be quite a challenge to do, but it's good. I'm excited by it. I find identity fascinating, like anyone's identity, just what makes a person really interesting. So I had the idea for When I Grow Up, and then when that went really well, I kind of started thinking about what else makes a person, and had suddenly came up with loads of ideas for about 6 different shows about where people invest their identity, or where I invest my identity, or could do if I wanted to. So, some people find a lot of their identity in their careers. Some people find some of their identity in their appearances, which is what led on to Look at Me, which is the new show. And I just wanted to find ways to question and explore whether those are the right place, not necessarily the right places, but how much those aspects of a person affects who we really are inside. And so that's kind of where the ideas came from. And also from a more personal point of view, When I Grow Up, they're very similar kind of ways of similar reasons for being inspired, because When I Grow Up came about because I couldn't find any work, because the recession hit Britain, and I trained as a journalist. I couldn't find any journalism work, and then I went into acting, which is what I really wanted to do with my life, and I still struggled to find any work. And so that gave me the idea of actually, well, what if I went back to all the things I wanted to be when I was a child? Because when I was a child, I wanted to be something different every single day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what made me go off and try to realise all those dreams, to find out whether I could have been those things. And then a part of that story is me coming out about my mental health problems, because that was a part of my story of growing up. And then that had such a good response that I thought, well, I'll be a bit braver with this new show, because the new show is Look at Me is all about whether who we appear to be is who we are, and that's partly because having been quite ill with, very ill with eating disorders, and been in and out of hospital for anorexia, and very underweight at size UK size 4, and then also very overweight and obese with compulsive overeating disorder. So I went up to a size 20, and I went from one to the other in about 6 months, and having been the same person but in such vastly different bodies, that got me questioning about whether who we appear to be is who we actually are, and how much, whether it's the way that people treat you that affects how you feel on the inside, or whether it's the way that you feel on the inside that affects how people treat you. I spent time dressing provocatively. I spent time wearing the hijab. I spent time as a man, and I spent time using with prosthetics, making me not only a man but also an old lady, and also revisiting my obese self, and all of those kind of touch upon huge subjects about feminism and sexism and gender, and even age, which is a huge, and women's sexuality at different ages as well. So I've done a lot more research this year to become more informed about all of those things. And the other thing that's altered this year is that I'm working with 2 other female comedians, Jojo Sutherland and Janie Godley, and they're helping me. I've written the show myself, and then they've kind of helped me bring out different gags, help me find, just kind of make it a better show, really, as good a show as it possibly could be. And we're all quite excited to see how people react to it, because these are 3 strong female voices that have contributed to this show. And so it'd be nice to find out how people can respond to that now. last year in last year's show, I had some darkness in there, which was part of my personal story, so coming out about the mental health stuff. And then in this show, there's a lot more ups and downs. So the highs are higher and the lows are lower, and they're more. I think that was more born of the actual experiences that have all been filmed. So we used hidden cameras to film how people treated me in all of these different guises.
Yeah.
And some of that is a personal story, and some of that is a broader, like, about the issues, man.
I have to ask, did you find that you were treated a lot differently dressed up as a man as opposed to a woman?
The beginning of the show, I say that a part of the reason I wanted to do this was to find confidence and find out what the key to confidence was. And it's back to the question of whether it's how people treat you or what comes first, how people treat you or how you feel inside. And the fact is that I've grown up in a family that has a very strong father. I mean, I've got a strong mother as well in a different way, but my father is definitely the king of the household. And and that has always given me this impression of men that means that I was frustrated as a woman that my father wouldn't listen to me as much as I wanted him to.
Yeah.
And I think he's gradually changed over the years, but that's kind of what I grew up with, was the idea that if you were a man, you got listened to more.
Yeah.
I think that's wrong, and it's changed in society. Whether it's changed in my family is a different matter. But I was really looking forward to being a man, to just have a day of seeing whether I really could be confident in my own in myself. And as soon as I got the prosthetics on, I have to say, the way a lot of it came from the way that the prosthetics and the costume made me look, and the way that I looked was I looked like a bit of a dickhead. And even my friends who saw pictures on Twitter, who knew it was me, kept tweeting me saying, even though I know it's you, I know that I hate that guy. Like, I like you, but that guy looks like somebody I'd hate.
Yeah.
And that was really fascinating, because I did find myself walking more broadly, to try and get that walk, like a convincing man walk. I found myself taking up more space and sitting with my legs spread, taking up as much space. I found that I had a fake penis and a fake balls as well. And even having that affected my stance and the way that I existed in the world.
Wow.
Just for a day. It was really fascinating. I got really, really over cocky, and I decided that I'd go to without giving too much of the show away, I decided that I'd go to get a suit made, be a proper, be a lad, and I'd go to Savile Row to get a suit made in London. And then completely genuinely on that day, I remembered that my first ever boyfriend is now a suit maker on Savile Row. And he was the first boy to ever break my heart. And I decided that I'd go and get an appointment with him, which I did. And I don't want to give too much of the show away, but I can just say that it reminded me that there's nothing wrong with being a woman, there's nothing wrong with being a man, but there's nothing wrong with me being who I am and not running away from who I am. And that's what that experience taught me.
We've noticed that there's been a little bit of reluctance to talk specifically about women in the comedy scene. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, you probably noticed I was a bit aware that actually I think it's more of a gender issue. I think it's because we've gotten to a point where women have, especially with a lot of the things that have happened recently, like the killings in California that sparked the Yes All Women hashtag. I think that women have fought so hard for so long to be treated as equals that now I think a lot of the issues that people used to say, oh, that's a women's issue, I think women as well as men are starting to want to say, well, actually, no, it's everybody's issue. And that's a part of the equality battle, is if we reach a point where we're able to say, well, it's not specific to women, this is something that is for everybody, then that's a part of embracing equality.
Yeah.
However, I think there still needs to be battles fought. Like, I've been doing research recently looking at the Yes All Women hashtag and the Not All Men hashtag and the reactions to that. And I think in the wider society, possibly even maybe not just in comedy, because comedy's got quite a lot of people with broad opinions and open minds. But in a wider society, there's a long way to go to try and fight the kind of accepted misogyny that goes on. Part of the reason I got into comedy specifically was because I've always loved it. Strangely, most of the people that I loved growing up were male comedians or male comedy actors, but the few strong women that I loved were great role models. And I got into acting and loved acting, but kept getting typecast as this romantic lead, which is wonderful, but there's not a lot to get your teeth into quite often in romantic leads. And I wanted to be more like, I love the fact that people in general are so much more nuanced than just that one kind of. I kept getting typecast as this woman on a pedestal, and I got a bit pissed off because women are not just on pedestals, we're so much more than that. So to get a voice, I started writing more, and I found that if I said things in comedy and made people laugh a little bit with it, then it was like it sweetened the pill a bit, so we can talk about mental health, we can talk about feminism, we can talk about politics, we can talk about anything. If you can make people laugh with it, then it means that people will listen to you more, or accept it more, or sometimes just open their minds a bit more. So for me, it's definitely a way to get a strong voice, and I think a lot more women could explore comedy as a way to strengthen their voices.
Some women feel like they can't go on stage in a dress, otherwise they have to adopt a certain persona, or there's some information that you can talk about or you can't talk about just because of your gender. Have you experienced anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I'm currently trying to decide what to wear for the new show. And I love fashion, and that's a part of the show, is that I love expressing myself through my clothes, and I love being feminine. I love the fact that I'm sitting here in red pumps and a little red dress, and
sounds lovely.
I love wearing. Thank you very much. It's a lovely warm sunny day in Edinburgh, which is weird. But yeah, I love being a feminine woman. That there are a lot of women to not man up, but have to dress a bit more, in trousers to be taken seriously, even, and wearing those, the stock kind of trousers and blazer stand-up thing. And I think that's changing. I'm going to wear a dress for my new show because I thought about wearing jeans and a pink t-shirt, but why should I have to feel like I have to wear that in order to feel more in charge? Why can't I wear a dress and be still in charge, still in charge of that room and taking them on this journey with me? Why would they take me less seriously for the fact that I'm wearing a skirt? And I think that's something that, even in that choice that I'm making, it's a part of the discussion. It's a part of challenging that in myself, let alone because other people might not respond, might not even be aware that they're responding to it. They might not even respond to it. But how do I feel standing there in a dress? Can I still be completely in charge? And I think I've been told recently by people who like my work that they like the fact that I wear dresses, and a lot of that is from men and women, because you can be strong and wear a dress.
We were talking to a local comedian, and she actually said that some of the negativity, or some of the reluctance to accept female comedians on stage comes less from the industry and more from the audience. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I think my director Jojo, she's been working in the industry for I think it's over 30 years now, and she's been sharing with me a lot of her stories personally over those 30 years, and she says she still gets people coming up to her, usually at proper stand-up gigs, not just fringe performances, and festivals are slightly different because you have a slightly different audience there, but stand-up specifically, she still gets people coming up to her and saying, I don't normally like female comedians, I don't normally like women in comedy, but you've changed my mind, or but I really liked you. Her persona is very... she's this, her persona is loudmouth mum who drinks and smokes, and that kind of persona, which is neither here nor there, but it seems to maybe it crosses people over. It kind of takes somebody who likes maybe that kind of drinking, smoking, loudmouth man, likes her as well, because she just speaks her mind and does it very well. She's a fantastic comedian. my persona is a bit more girly, perhaps, and that's not for everybody either. But I don't want to apologise for that. And I think, there are still people who find that it's the audiences that don't even realise they're doing it, but they expect men to be funny and women not to be. For so long, we have been taught in society, it's more of a sociological issue rather than a biological issue, that men are funny, specifically in that kind of stand-up arena as well, that the audience is a beast to be slayed and and the man on stage is the person who, either I killed last night or I died last night on stage, and it's that kind of terminology of that we have to get one over on the audience and also get one over on our fellow comedians, and that you're not apologising for there's a victim in the joke. There's always a victim in the punchline of the joke. Sometimes that's very cleverly, not necessarily a person, but a sociological construct or a concept. But there's always a victim. There's a lot more loveliness in comedy, and what I mean by that is comedians that aren't trying to get one over on the audience or get one over on their fellow comedians, but comedians that are trying to take you on a journey with them. Take you on a, so it's an inclusive thing rather than a killing thing. Sounds a bit abstract, but people like Boy with Tape on His Face, who he's not a stand-up, but he is in comedy. That's bringing people back to childhood, and it doesn't matter about gender. It's just a flight of fancy, other worlds, whimsical wonder, and that's kind of changing in stand-up as well, because there's different kinds of personas coming out more that are just slightly less of that typical, certainly not those men that we used to get who would tell the racist jokes back in the 70s, the racist, sexist jokes. That's just not happening. I'm not seeing that anymore, and I'm so glad of that. There's so much more intelligence there.